Okay, so we are on record. So, hi, this is Sherri Mraz, and here today with Gladys Clancy, the Sassy Woman's Guide to Appreciating Men. And you are in our Cooking Up Biz support group meeting. So I welcome you, Gladys, and thank you for taking the time to be here today and share all of your amazing information. So I had a couple of questions. I ask the same questions every time to people because I'm always so curious as to the things that have helped you in tools build your business. So what would you say is your favorite business building book? And if it's not business, but it's something that really did it for you, what was it?
Well, yeah. Now I have an old business building book that is like an oldie but a goodie. It's Zig Ziglar on selling. And I just think his philosophy of, kind of giving value and, all that stuff, really understanding the needs of the person that's in front of you and being able to communicate benefits and, just his whole philosophy is just really good. But he has a lot of really good information for anybody that wants to build a business in that book. So that's my favorite.
Okay, awesome. So just so you guys know as well, I was going to put it in the chat, but I think I will put it all in emails to you guys. So I'll make sure everything is all spelled correctly and everything. So what is your favorite resource that you go to build your business?
I like networking events. I enjoy being face to face with people. So even more than social media, really. And so I like to go to different, hi, Jorgen. I like to go to different networking events. I go to the National Association of Professional Women. They have meetings in West Palm and in Miami and all over. The Women's Power Lunch Bunch. They have one in Stewart. They have Palm Beach Power Lunch Bunch in Palm Beach County. Let's see what else. The Women's Prosperity Network. Those are all really good resources where you can meet women, other entrepreneurs. You can learn from them and create alliances and find clients as well. They're really good resources. I like those. And also the chambers. If you go to the Chamber of Commerce, there's just a lot of different resources like that. And again, it's always talking to people to find out what their need is. You know what I mean? And how you can serve them, understanding that first, and then when they say, so what do you do? If you talk to somebody and you're interested, genuinely from the heart, interested in them and what's going on with them, eventually they're going to say, so what do you do? And then you've already gotten some ideas of how you could connect what it is that you do to meet their need, and it becomes a more natural transition, a more authentic, natural transition, and you get clients from that.
Absolutely. So we and all of those resources that you just mentioned, they are all like national, correct?
The Women's Prosperity Network is actually international. They have a chapter in the Netherlands, and they have a chapter in Iceland, as well as all over the United States.
Okay. And you've been to some of those events, and there are not just women there.
There's a lot of the ones that I go to are mostly women, but if you go to the chamber meetings and different things like that, it's men and women together. Okay. And there's a lot of different chambers. It's not just the one chamber from your city, but there's specific chambers for different things, different age groups, and so.
Okay. So
and also meetups. That's another thing too. Go to meetup.com and just find a meetup, a group of people that are congregating around whatever it is that you're interested in. And it doesn't even have to be your business. It can be something that you personally have an interest in, like kayaking or whatever, and you just go to a meeting of those people, and then in that way you're meeting a whole fresh group, again getting into those conversations, and you can kind of use the indirect approach to selling.
So Gladys, did you get a second book published, or was this you just had a book published?
I did. I just had another book published. It's on Amazon. It's called Divine Weight Loss. 5 Secrets to Lose 20 Pounds in 10 Weeks. And it's, sparkle, shine, feel divine for your man. It's really about getting rid of the blocks. We all say, oh, I'm going to lose weight. And then, go, oh, I'm not going to go to the gym. And you start, and you sabotage yourself. So why is it? Why do we sabotage ourselves? And how do we get rid of that? And then the other part of the book is really fundamental information on nutrition. And I know you do that as well, Sherri, but I mean, this is like breaking the myths. There's a lot of myths out there and misinformation about nutrition. And so I'm really trying to, and a lot of those ideas are what keep us fat. I mean, really, they use like low fat, where they're stuffing everything with starches and sugars, and so that kind of secrets.
So what I want everybody to be really aware of as we're having this conversation with Gladys today is content is valuable, really valuable. You have to have content. But what is really going to sell anything, your product, your book, is the title. Tell us your two titles again.
The first one is Sassy Woman's Guide to Appreciating Men. And the subtitle would be how to have everything that you want in your relationship. I mean, really, it's and that's what I teach. I teach you how to have that fabulous relationship that you're looking for. And then the other one is, and the Sassy Woman's Guide to Appreciating Men, I have to tell you, that gets all kinds of responses. I mean, I get women that go, what do you mean appreciate men? And what if you got one you want to get rid of? So you get, and it kind of like, it purposely, kind of like gets people into the conversation. It's kind of intriguing. Like, what do you mean by that? And so it kind of opens the doorway for a conversation. And then the other book, The Divine Weight Loss, I mean, I don't know, most everybody wants to lose weight.
And you had a good subtitle for that too, the way you took it, to lose weight,
Yeah, 5 secrets. The secrets is a good way to put it, because people want secrets, So 5 secrets and the secrets are basically 5 major areas in the book. And then under each of those 5 secrets, I have a bunch of subtitles. So there's like chapters within the major 5 sections of the book.
Has anybody ever heard that years ago I was in some multi-level thing, and the training was when people are all talking and you start losing them, if you start really talking softer and softer, people start leaning in. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that training, but to have more value, sometimes you want to act like it's kind of private information or a secret. Has anybody ever heard that? No? I was told that if you lower your voice, you will get more interest in what you're saying. Not the whole time, because then you're flat. But if you do it at critical moments, that's just something that I had learned. So I love the secret idea, and people get paid, big bucks to do copywriting because it's all in the title.
The title is important, but content is also important.
It's very important. But
I'm an educator first, and so I really believe in putting together a good curriculum.
But the books can sit there and not sell if they
don't
have the right title. And
that's right. You have to have a good title and a good cover, and get a cover that you like. So I like my cover too.
So Gladys, I know that you have a ton of passion because I've spoken to you enough times to know. So why do you feel that relationships, because that was how you kind of approached this whole thing with me, why do you feel that relationships affect your business and your career so much?
Well, I have to tell you, I used to be a business coach. That's what I was doing. And I was helping business owners, especially after 2008, where people had to kind of like start redefining themselves after the economy sort of took a nosedive. And so I was helping people to define their vision, their mission, their strategies and tactics, and helping them to get real clarity. What do you not want in your life? So what do you want, and all this kind of stuff. And then taking the whole thing with vision and mission and strategies and tactics and putting it on a timeline. And I mean, we had measurable results. We were doing your niche and your target market and how you're going to set up your website, you know, kind of the contents and the groupings and all that kind of stuff. So I was really thorough. And I was working with men and women. And as I was working with men, everything was, you know, great. And as I was working with women, relationships kept coming up, you know, and I realized that relationships were causing a lot of problems for women. They were blocks that were keeping them from being able to express their greatness. And so I decided to shift and to start doing this Sassy Woman's Guide to Appreciating Men, because it's so important. You know, myself, you know, I lived in Germany. I lived in Europe for 14 years, and I had my twin boys at the last 6 years that I was there. And, you know, I kind of had this dream life traveling around the world, Bali, Hong Kong, Taj Mahal. And then I got divorced and my world came crashing in. I mean, I was like, I bottomed out. I came home to my mother. I was so skinny from not eating, exhausted from not sleeping. And I had 2 kids, 2 6-year-old twins in tow that were depending on me, not just to survive, but to thrive. And I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what to do about the pain and the sense of loss, by the embarrassment, just the whole thing. I was shaken at the roots. And so I had to figure it out. You know, I mean, I couldn't just quit because I had 2 kids that were dependent on me. So I started reading. I went to seminars. I went to books. Tony Robbins, Course in Miracles. I mean, you name it. I did everything under the sun. I meditated, prayed, contemplated until I finally, it settled in. And I finally came to that conclusion, okay. And then 22 years ago, I met my husband, and he was my best friend for 5 years. Then we got married. So I've been married to him for 17 years now. We just celebrated 17 years, to a man who just, you know, he gives me fun surprises all the time. I mean, it's like amazing. You know, he provides love and fun and support for what I'm doing in the world. And so it's just really now a passion for me to help other women to be able to have that, you know, to be able to have what I've got. I feel a responsibility to be able to share that. And not only for women, but for men. I mean, I do a relationship club call, and this one gal on there, she's telling her husband, she's on your side, you know, because I mean, it's both, you know, I mean, both people have to, you know, it's kind of like a 2-way street. So I just want women to understand what it is that you need to do to be able to have that relationship, because with women, it affects everything. It affects how you raise your kids. It affects your business, your self-confidence. You know, everything gets affected by it. You know, your clients can feel it when you're off, and the whole energy of your business. So business success for women depends a lot on having a good relationship. Their primary relationship.
I agree, because I don't know, and we have, in all fairness, we have one man on the call, and I don't know if he wants to step up to the plate, but I'm going to throw this out there. I know for me as a woman, and we have other women on the call, if I have a bad day with my partner, and partner as in man, not, you know, partner, the other kind of partner. I have to clarify these days. But when I have a bad day with him, I go to work or I sit in front of clients and I feel a heaviness. I feel a heavy energy. And I know better, and I'll do everything, you know, to be prayerful and just to try to shift my energy. And by the end of the day, it will usually shift, but it starts out challenging where I'm not good. And
Yeah.
I think women in general, definitely, I agree with you. I think women completely have that. I don't know. Hands, maybe. Women, are we all like doing that?
It's human nature. You know, men compartmentalize. You know, men separate business from work. It's 2 separate things. They can be suffering in their relationship and they go to work and it's like work. But for a woman, it's not like that. It's all mixed up in the brain. I mean, it's neuroscience. You know, it's brain science. It's the latest research validates that. So it's just the way it is.
I see Jorgen unmuted himself, so I think he's
Yeah,
gonna...
I agree that I can compartmentalize and I can separate those two for sure.
Really? So if you
Yeah,
have a bad day with your partner,
it doesn't matter.
it doesn't bother you, like same, you get to work, same energy, same everything. So
Yeah.
that proves Gladys's point, because
Yeah.
I know you're not the average man, really and truly. I mean that with all respect, in
Okay.
that you're evolved more than the average person who is just, you know, go to work, and you're involved in a lot of self-development. So if you can compartmentalize and being a sensitive, evolved person, that's saying something.
Okay.
So, yeah. So Gladys, I think you just like took that to the hilt.
I've got more on that subject if you want to hear.
Well, we'll have time for questions at the end also. So what advice do you give to people? Because I know that I kind of know what you're about. I know you're very much like law of attraction. But what are your top advice things that you do give to people to help them to improve their relationships?
Okay, well, you know, I mean, like, just real briefly, to touch on the idea of how men think and women think, okay? If you go historically, the cavemen, if you go back to the cavemen days, women were sitting by the fire, they were caring for the children, they're nurturing the family, all those things. That was what women were doing in the caveman days. So intuition, compassion, all those things were highly developed in the female brain. And actually reading people, being able to read people, being able to know their unverbalized needs was necessary for survival of the species. The men, the male cavemen, I mean, we're talking thousands of years ago, right? Before people were evolved like Jorgen is, but thousands of years ago, the male cavemen was out there protecting the village. They were protecting it from invaders. They were hunting the woolly mammoth. They had to bring food homes, or otherwise people would starve to death. So empathy and compassion were not highly developed in the brain of the early cavemen, and they couldn't be. He couldn't afford it, because otherwise the family would die from the invaders. You know, if he said, "Oh, I don't want to kill this poor guy," or "Oh, you know, this poor animal," everybody'd starve to death. So that aspect of the male brain, what was necessary for the survival of the species, was male aggression. And so every healthy man would meet force with force. That was instilled in the DNA. And although men have evolved, of course, men have evolved since then, I think any woman would agree that a lot of those primal traits are still in existence in men today in the DNA. And so if you understand, you know, that a healthy man's going to meet force with force, then when you have something that you don't like, it's probably not a good idea to come at him with force. You know what I mean? That's like not going to work. You come at him like, "Don't you talk to me like that." Well, he's going to think, "Oh, she thinks I'm a jerk." He's going to see that as an attack, and he's going to attack back, and you're in a battle, and nobody wins. So what do? Because you don't want to stuff it, right? I mean, that's like not what I teach. I teach you to get everything out in the open and get things resolved. The problem is that powerful women, which all of us as business women, powerful women would rather swallow a glass of thumbtacks rather than express vulnerability. That is the truth, right? We'd rather try to convince, cajole, you know, coerce, seduce, manipulate, or threaten him rather than express how we truly feel. And you know how to make them listen at work. You know, as a woman, you're the boss, you know how to make them listen at work. But how do you do it at home? How exactly do you express to somebody that you feel like you're being treated badly? And how do you do it in a way that's going to open him up, you know, so he'll hear you? Well, an emotionally intelligent woman will say, "I'm angry." An emotionally unintelligent woman will throw a plate. You know, it's okay to be angry. It's just not okay to throw plates. You got to express what you're feeling. And healthy conflict, which is what I teach, healthy conflict diffuses the problem. It defines the problem, really clearly defines the problem, diffuses defensiveness, and lets him save face. And I'll say that again. It defines the problem, it diffuses defensiveness, and it lets him save face. And so it opens him up to partner with you to find common ground. And as you really listen and as you express authentically and vulnerably what it is that you're feeling, then you create a space for him to do the same. And that actually deepens, you know, that connection in your relationship. It makes him even physically attracted to you, you know, it does. So that would be a tip.
You always hear, right, from like different therapists and stuff, you never want to go at a person with, you know, you, right? Because you're attacking. So that's what you mean by going at with force. You want to be saying, I feel, I this.
Well, yeah, and I have actually a script for healthy conflict that I have in my program, and you plug in your own information in there, whatever the situation happens to be, and it gives you a way to get into that space. You know, it helps you to set up the mindset before you go into the conversation, and it helps you to get into that space, because if you go into a conversation like, we have to talk, you know, I mean, forget it. She's gonna shut down, and you are not gonna get anything resolved.
You mean like hand on the hip
and we've all done it.
You learn, you don't do that. Yeah. It's like talking to a child over them and doing this. It's scary too.
They'll shut down. And the thing is that if you understand, because like I'm an educator, if you understand how the brain works, you know, when somebody feels wrong, the part of the brain that has logical reasoning shuts down. So when somebody's scared or intimidated or they feel like they're being made wrong, that whole receptivity for finding solutions it disappears. You know, and actually the part of your brain that has logical reasoning shuts down. So if you want them to think logically and reasonably, you can't do that. I mean, it's not going to work. And you can do it, but it's probably not going to get you the result that you want.
So Gladys, years back, I read a book called The Road Less Traveled. Have you heard of that book?
Yes.
And, you know, and it did talk about that biblically, that men were designed that way from the beginning of time. They're more like the pioneers, you know, out and the horses going across the Wild West, right? Looking out in the distance for danger, where the women are taking care of all the needs. So, like, your brains are wired differently. You really are different.
Wired differently.
And when we honor and appreciate that in men, I think we come from a different place.
Just work with it. You know what I'm saying? You work with it. And so okay, so you asked me some tips. Okay, so first of all, I think it's important for women to understand that it is our responsibility to teach a man how we want him to behave with us. You might want to write that one down. It's your responsibility to teach him how you want him to behave with you. And the feeling of insult, you know how you feel like, the insult comes when you think that he should already know. You know, when you think, he should already know, I don't want him to be talking to me like that. So that makes you, the insult comes up, that burning, you know, and then you get angry. And then even if you don't express it, he can feel it because energetically you're sending out, you're a jerk, right? So if you understand that it is your responsibility to let him know, you know, to teach him, then it kind of like takes away that in the feeling of insult, and then it opens the way for having a better form of a discussion. And if you understand also that your man wants you to be happy. I mean, I know sometimes you might think that's just like not true, but it's not. It is true. Your happiness is an aphrodisiac for a man. So people ask me, so how do you get the passion going? You know, what can you do to stimulate passion in your relationship to get the spark going again? And I say, let him know that he makes you happy. And because there is a physical, emotional connection for men. And so it's just one of their emotional needs. You know, appreciation is like oxygen for a man. And so if he knows that you appreciate him, and sometimes you may have to like set it up to have him do something that you can appreciate. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but letting him know that he makes you happy, like, even if it's for nothing. Say, I just feel so happy just sitting here with you, or I really love going for this walk with you. Just letting him know that he makes you happy is an aphrodisiac for a man, and it's going to open him up. Women are the emotional gateway for men. I mean, that's just the truth. And your girlishness is your power. And it opens up his desire. It opens up his silliness. It opens up his playfulness, and it creates a safe space for him to feel his own emotions. And the truth is, boys, a lot of the times grow up, at least in the United States, I don't know, Oregon, about, where you are, but boys grow up and they're taught, to suck it up. And people say, you're fine, but they're not fine. And then you come along, and you touch him emotionally, and he wants more. He's hungry for it. He's inspired. And so, that's our job as women. I mean, it's our power. That's your power. If you understand where your power is coming from, then you can use it, and use it in a way to not manipulate somebody, but to offer love when it's needed the most, just to bring it into the situation, to bring comfort to pain, I mean, it's, and then when you do that, when you're able to create that space where he can feel his own emotions, right in the middle of a deep discussion, he may want to go to bed with you. And don't take that as lack of interest in what you're saying when it's the opposite. He's moved by your discussion. He's moved by your authenticity and by the connection of your conversation. And it makes him horny. But it always comes from emotion. It comes from that authenticity. It comes from that feeling of connectedness. So
I was going to say, before you got into that part of it, I was going to say how, if you really think about these principles, they apply to anyone. Your clients, really and truly, people want to be appreciated.
They want to be appreciated.
They want to be validated. Their feelings to mean something. They want to know that you respect their differences instead of being critical. Children, everyone you come in contact with. So this information, your power and what you teach is women, to move them to have healthy relationships, which I think is super important, because there's a whole bunch of women, maybe not in Fatima's culture, but there's a whole bunch of women who do nothing but rag and complain that their men aren't this or aren't that. And really and truly, it's because you haven't looked at them as a man. You criticize them for being the man that they are, but you want a man. Does that make sense?
I mean, you have to convince him that he is what you want. Do you understand? I mean, you have to, give him proof that he has the capacity to make you happy, and then he'll make you more happy.
But doesn't that apply to children too, when you're raising children?
Absolutely. I used to teach inner city kids, and it's like, if you go in there and you're just criticizing, you're gonna get nowhere. I mean, he's gonna cringe. If you have a husband, and he sees you coming, he go, oh my God, what you gonna complain about now? You think that's gonna stimulate love?
Right.
Is that gonna create receptivity and make him want to partner with you to find solutions? So if you can find that space and create that the mindset before you even start the conversation, so he understands that fundamentally you love him and fundamentally you think that this is a good relationship, but you got an issue here that's got to be resolved, and you got to resolve the issues. I mean, I have a friend who has a horse farm in Ocala. And her daughter got this horse from Europe, and nobody could ride it. It was bucking everybody. And I said, oh, that's probably why they were trying to get rid of the horse. And my friend said, no, it's a fine horse. But her daughter boarded the horse, and the guy who was the trainer let the horse get away with it. And she said, you can't let a horse get away with anything, or he's going to develop bad habits, and it's going to continue. And it's the same thing in a relationship. If something happens, you've got to address it to clean it up, or otherwise it's just going to continue and it's just going to get worse. So I'm not about stuffing anything, but I'm not about going into battle and creating World War III and hurting people. I mean, it's I teach you how to get things resolved in a way that brings you closer together and actually stimulates more physical intensity and connection.
Absolutely. And everybody, hopefully everyone's heard of Debbie Ford, God rest her soul. But that is one thing that when I saw her in a lecture, she said, you don't want to stuff because it's like drinking spoiled milk.
Yeah.
It's going to pollute your body. So you
Right.
need to move these things out, but how you move them out are really critical.
It's really important.
And I appreciate you so much sharing this information, but I want everyone to take it for where they are in their life. If you're the man, or if you're in a different kind of relationship, it applies to everyone, and it applies to raising children. Like I said,
Absolutely.
you're never going to get anything out of someone by condemning or criticizing or telling them they're not that. You want to tell them all the great things they are. Wherever we put we say this all the time, wherever we put our attention, it grows. And
that being said, you're not Pollyanna. This is not about ignoring stuff that's coming up. It's about getting it out on the table and dealing with it and say, this is happening here. We got to talk. Let's talk about it, and just getting it out. But if it's a partnership, then you can actually make the problem like a third party. It's like the two of you together to deal with this problem, to find common ground. It's a different energy that you're bringing to it. So that's and I had one lady that took my course, and she works with male contractors. It's a very male-oriented business, and her whole business transformed. I mean, she was getting resistance from these men, and it was because of the way she was talking to them. And so then after she learned this, she knew how to relate to them in a way that opened them up, and her whole business exploded. I mean, she got so much more business easier. She got referrals and all this kind of stuff because she understood the differences and honored the differences. I mean, it's not about one being better than the other. It's about, and even for a man like Jorgen, to understand that when your woman is getting upset about something, it's because that's the way her brain's wired. And if you could understand it, then you can have more empathy and compassion and deal with it in a more effective way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I read a book, this is a little off topic, but Walking on Eggshells. It's really about personality disorder syndrome. And so one of the things, I think that same theory runs true in life. If you ignore, because I'm a very spiritual person, and I think for those of us who are here, we do learn to stuff, because anger really isn't an acceptable thing, and it's not acceptable for most women. And so you do, just hold it in, and if you look for the positive in the person, so you're stuffing, not trying to get them to change because you're accepting them for what they are, and it just creates this whole snowball of getting nothing.
But that's not authentic.
It's not authentic. When you read, like I read that book, and it was an aha moment for me, because it said, wait a minute, like you said with the horse, if you don't address something that is not working, you're only encouraging it. You're breeding more of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Things that aren't appropriate right in their tracks, and say,
yeah,
in a loving way, in the way you would teach us how to change.
I would be very firm. I mean, I would look at him and I would say, listen, you know what? That hurt me, and that's not okay.
So when is it, Gladys, just to go, because we're really taking this to appreciation and how it can work for everyone, but in your experience, when would you ever say to a woman, I don't know that we have anyone on the call this would apply to, but maybe someone who would listen to the recording, when would they stop trying to change their relationship to be at a higher level? Like, there has to be some lines, some boundaries that people.
Yeah, here's the thing. It's not about changing your relationship, and it's not about changing your man. I mean, I know I shouldn't even be saying this because it's going to cause some resistance. But when you get yourself straight, and you literally understand what it is that you will not tolerate anymore. What do you want instead, which is what I teach. You get rid of your own limiting beliefs, which is what I teach, and replace them with empowering beliefs. You change your own vibration. You raise yourself up to another level of vibration, and you become a vibrational match for that next level of experience. That's what happens. You don't have to do anything. Yeah. It's like you need to do nothing. In your defenselessness, your safety lies. You literally, you have your own standards, you know, and I teach also how to have set boundaries and expectations that get met. And so you understand who you are. The bottom line, okay, when I work with women and when we're working on limiting beliefs, if you go down, 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 where everybody lands is, I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy. And it's part of the human condition. And anybody who's honest understands that that's the bottom line, is that you have this underlying feeling that you're not worthy. And because of that, you know, how can you have anything? How can you have what you really want? And so that's what has to be addressed. That feeling of I'm not worthy has to be just removed and replaced with the truth that, you know, you I mean, look, I don't know, we're all spiritual here, right? You're an individualized expression of the divine. You're an individualized expression of God. And so all the attributes of God are who you are. Happiness, joy, love, wisdom, you know, prosperity, all those things are who you are. It's not something you have to strive for. It's who you are in truth. And so it's about just stepping into that awareness and that acceptance and denying power to everything else, you know? It's that's what it is.
And I think it takes care of itself. Would you agree with
that?
Because, you know, I 100% agree with what you just said. When you don't love yourself, you allow people to mistreat you.
And it's insidious, you know, you don't even realize that you're doing it. You know, it's like you sabotage your own good. And you actually attract people into your life that are going to be a validation for your own limiting beliefs, you know?
And when you love yourself and you start with yourself and you learn the skills to have a good relationship, the people who really aren't willing to rise up to the occasion, tell me if I'm wrong here, they leave. Because it's not fun anymore. You're not engaging with them, and they don't have anyone to play rough with on the playground. Right. They don't care about learning. So,
yeah, but you know, most often what happens is that they change. But they change themselves, not because you're trying to change them, but because they become a vibrational match to who you are. I mean, women create this is another secret, okay? I'm giving you a lot of the secrets. Women create the emotional environment that the relationship takes place in. And men will follow your emotional cues. And so if, you know, if you understand that, if he comes in and you just kind of like, hey, how you doing? You know, he'll go, it makes him stop and question his own feeling of something's wrong. You know what I mean? Because it's like he's not playing off of you. You know, I mean, you can shift things just by your own energy, by who you're being. It's not so much what you're doing, it's who you're being. It's your beingness is an energy, and it impacts everything around you. And it really works. So sometimes, yes, maybe the guy has some just psychological disorders or whatever, and just can't get past it, and he needs to leave. But you're still better off, right, than beating your head against the wall for the next 20 years with somebody that's never going to be able to make you happy. But you have to know that you deserve to be happy, and you have to know what that looks like. You know, what is happiness? You are the individualized expression of joy. But what does that look like for you? You know, each of us are the individualized expression of joy. But what's joy for me is different than Fatima and Sherri, and each of us has a different individualized expression of this divine aspect of joy. And so it's important to understand, what does that look like for me? You know, you have to know and then you're able to go out and seek it. You know, when you know that that's what you deserve, you become a vibrational match for that, and it's drawn to you.
I agree. And so just to thank you, Gladys. I think it's all wonderful information. And I think that um, as health coaches, which is the majority on this call, we sit in a space with people, whether it's on the phone or in person. And I think that sometimes we don't feel like we're enough. This happens, it happens. And I think that just even all of these principles, to apply it to your business and and know that the right people are attracted to you, and just holding that space and honoring, you know, like how IIN, you're not an IIN or Gladys, but we talk about crowding out, bringing in more good so it pushes out the other stuff. I think that when we really are okay with just being who we are as our divine self in front of that person and encouraging them, I think it can really start to shift your business. Don't be in lack. Don't be in like fear that you're not giving enough. So I'm going to end it on that, but I want to open it up.
I'll say one more thing.
I want to open it up to questions too.
Just allow the divine to move through you. I mean, it's not about you. You know, who are you to say you're not enough? If you're really if you really believe that you're an individualized expression of the divine, and when you think that I'm not good enough, what you're saying is that the divine is not good enough. You know, it's just removing the blocks, not trying to be more. It's removing the blocks and establishing that connection with infinite intelligence. And then you have access to it. All of us have access to it.
And it's a long journey. Anybody who feels like they're not getting it, or like you get it in snippets, you get bits and pieces.
I have strategies that I teach to help you to be able to get it. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm. But anyone, I mean, when I trained to be a spiritual practitioner, and I remember the Reverend saying to me, it's not a clear path, though, from A to Z. You get, you know, sidetracked. This happens. Life happens. So I love strategies, and I think we have to learn them, but it takes time to actually embody. Would you not agree? Where all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, yeah, I totally get it. It's just.
I think it's a decision, Sherri. That's what I think it is. I think it's a decision, and then once you make the decision, it's like you're right. It's not a straight path, but it's about being aware of what you're feeling and then choosing again. So when you're going along, I mean, like I used to be married to an airline pilot, right? And so he's flying from Miami to Germany. It's off. The plane is off course 99% of the time. And so they're just constantly correcting. Oh, a little bit too much. Correct this way, this way, this way. They zigzag their way, and you finally get there. The problem is not being off course. The problem is not correcting when you're off course. If you don't correct it, you'll end up in Siberia or in, you know, whatever, China or something, you know. So you have to constantly be correcting. So it's about being aware of what you're feeling. If you're feeling good, then you're on course. If you're not feeling good, something's wrong and you're off course, and you just need to make a teeny tiny correction. And sometimes when you just make a teeny tiny correction, you get there. The problem comes when you let it go too far, then it's like a long distance to come back to center, you know? So as long as you're kind of like constantly making these little teeny tiny adjustments, you're fine. And so it's about being aware, just like you said, Sherri, it's not a straight path. You just have to be aware of when you need to correct. And part of that has to do with forgiveness. You know, I mean, it's important. Forgiveness is not for the person that you're forgiving, it's for yourself. Because as long as you see that person as guilty, then you're a victim and you're not free. And you know, something happens and we give it meaning, right? So the meaning that we give it is going to be how we're going to be impacted by it. So it's about reframing. You know, if you can forgive the person, then you're giving the whole situation a different meaning, and you're able to free yourself from the negative effects of this person's behavior. It doesn't make that person's behavior right. But when you can forgive someone, you're no longer a prisoner and no longer negatively impacted by that negative behavior. You don't have to drag around the emotional nightmare for the rest of your life.
I love that. That was actually great. Thank you. So do you guys have any questions? You guys are all muted, don't forget. So if you want to make a comment, statement, I'm just going to open it up, or a question. So as I said, we went a little bit off of our normal business strategy, but remember primary food. We're all these, I know we can compartmentalize, but it still does affect your quality of your work if you have all of these pieces in place where you feel,
it affects who you are, and who you are is your work, right?
yeah, you want to go home.
You're selling you first.
Feel something good. I loved what you said last. I loved the most. If you're seeing someone else as like a
Victimizer.
victimized, if you see them as wrong and you keep focusing on all the things they're doing wrong, you are remaining in that victim role and staying this big and small.
Right.
So you really do want to forgive people so that you can open yourself up to this.
And I give you strategies for forgiveness, because that's a process too, but there are ways of even if you have resistance, there's ways to move past that resistance into the forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So everybody's muted. No questions?
I just here, Fatima. I just want to thank Gladys. That was really awesome. Really, very informative, very knowledgeable. And I just enjoyed your, this session. Really, thank you.
Thank you, Fatima.
We need to get together, actually.
Thank you. You can go to my
knows what I'm talking about. It's like we need
I want to offer you guys something. I want to offer you a 20-minute relationship rescue consultation for free. So if you want to email me at Gladys@sassywomansguide.com and bring you pick out one burning relationship question that you want addressed, and I will give you a 20-minute consultation. If you want to email me, you can even write the question, write your little the question in there so I can start thinking about it, and then we'll have a conversation around that. So that's my gift for you, Sherri, for all of the ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So I will send you guys a follow-up email, and I will have that information and Gladys's email link. I didn't do any of the chat today because I wrote so much stuff that just easier. I'll just send you all an email. And you guys, old school, if anybody remembers, if you hit reply all to the email, if you want to talk amongst yourselves, it still works, even though we have Facebook now. I love that, being able to communicate in groups. Oh my gosh, I have 75 people on my email with this writers group that I was in. Now that's a little too much reply all, okay?
Gladys, was what you talked about today in your Divine Diet book?
It's a lot of it is in the Divine Weight Loss book. And I also have an online course called Sassy Woman's Guide to Appreciating Men. And if you go to Udemy, UDEMY, udemy.com/Sassy Woman's Guide, and I'm going to create a coupon code. It says if you want to redeem a coupon, and I'm going to call it, what should we call it? Yogi? Or Sherri, you want to call it Sherri? We'll call it Sherri. So I'm going to create a coupon code, and you're going to get $50 off. The course is $197, and so for you guys that are listening, if you go to udemy.com/Sassy Woman's Guide, and they say redeem a coupon, and just put in the word Sherri, you'll get the course for $147 instead of $197. I'll do that today. I just have to set it up after we get off the call, so just wait a couple of minutes. But it's really wonderful. I mean, and it's 8 hours of videos, but they're in 15-minute pieces. So you can say, well, you got 15 minutes a day you can do this. And it comes with a 70-page guidebook that you can print. I would suggest send the whole thing to Office Depot and just have them put it in a spiral binder. That way you've got it, have all these loose pieces of paper lying around. But the guidebook is a transcript of the 8-hour course, but also it's got exercises in it. And that's the key. The key is not just me talking. I put you through a process. It's a personal experience, this course, where you're going through different exercises and you're internalizing what I'm saying by connecting it with what's going on in your life. So it becomes transformational. I mean, you can't even imagine the stories of women that have been through my course and how their lives have been transformed in every aspect of their life, their business, their kids, their mother. You know, I mean, it transforms everything, really.
Well, Gladys,
Wonderful.
tell them again the name of your diet book, because I saw it on Kindle for $9.99, correct?
Yeah, it's on Kindle for $9.99. It's Divine Weight Loss, 5 Secrets to Lose 20 Pounds in 10 Weeks. And then it says sparkle, shine, feel divine for your man. And the key is feel divine for your man, because yes, you're going to lose weight with this book, but you're going to lose weight and find yourself.
Okay. So I'll put that all in there as well, because that's relatively inexpensive, that if anybody wants to get it, just to I think when we're
I also have, for people after they've been through the course, then there's like a relationship club that's very inexpensive, just to kind of keep the conversation going, to help you to, you know.
I saw that on your website.
Yeah, a number of different things.
Your website on there as well.
It's wonderful. It's you know, it's a gift that you give to yourself that's going to impact your whole life forever. So my gift to you guys. Took a lot to do it. Took me a couple of years to put it all together. You know,
I'm sure it is. We all know about
a lot of craziness. 15-hour days.
So I thank you so much. I still have you recording. I'm going to end the recording now. Thank you, Gladys, and thank you everyone for being here.